Hi, I'm Falada. Welcome to my kitchen. Today I'll be preparing a traditional holiday treat. The name of this recipe is Ontbijtkoek. This is a Dutch word and it loosely translates to pepper cake. But it's basically what we know these days as gingerbread. It features a myriad of spices, cardamom, cinnamon, nutmeg, but of course the main attraction is the ginger. Ginger, of course, in the Middle Ages was highly prized, brought over during the spice trades, and it was popular for not only what it was perceived to be medicinal purposes. It was thought to help settle stomach issues, but because of its sweet hot taste, many considered it to be an aphrodisiac. So let's get started. So to begin, the first thing that you are going to do is preheat your oven to 300 degrees, and we will learn later why you are going to preheat your oven to such a low temperature for a cake. Next, oil or butter and flour a pan for your mixture. This is an 8-inch springform pan. You can use a loaf pan if you prefer. You can pretty much use any kind of a cake pan that you want. I just find that this is easier for me, and I prefer the way it serves up this using an 8-inch springform pan. So butter, or I used some Pam spray, and flour your springform pan. Okay, the first thing we'll do is go over our ingredients. Now, what I have here is 2 cups of self-rising flour. Now, by means of an explanation, the normal leavening agents that we use these days, baking powder, baking soda, really didn't come into mass production until the middle of the 1800s. So during our pre-1600 time period that we work with, you would have either had a leavening agent, maybe like beaten eggs, but beaten eggs take a lot of work, or maybe some sort of vinegar derivative. But more likely than anything else, you would have used yeast for your cakes. In this instance, I like to work a little more simply than yeast will allow me for something like this. So I'm going to cheat a little bit and use self-rising flour. Our next main ingredient would be 3/4 of a cup of dark brown sugar. You can use light brown sugar if you want. It will give you, obviously, a lighter color, and maybe not quite as dense a texture. Your kids might actually prefer that better if you have little ones. But for more traditional purposes, we're going to use dark brown sugar. You will have a 1/2 cup. I'm using half and half. You can use milk. You could use cream if you want to. I kind of like this. It's kind of in between. So anyway, I'm using a cup of half and half, 1 egg, and if I'm sure most of you who are experienced cooks know this. If you're not, please, by all means, break your egg over a separate bowl and not your batter. If there's a problem, say there's blood in your egg or you get shell in it, you don't want that in your batter. So crack your egg over a separate bowl before adding it. Okay, you're going to have, we'll skip over here because these are some of the more substantial items. You're going to have 1/4 cup of molasses. This is blackstrap. I don't see any reason why you couldn't use sorghum if you wanted to. I found that the original recipe called for a 1/2 cup of the molasses. I found that to be a little strong for my taste. So I cut this to 1/4 cup of molasses, and then I'm going to use a 1/4 cup of honey to buffer it. So, got that. You've got 3/4 of a teaspoon of nutmeg. Let's see, this is half a teaspoon of ground cardamom, teaspoon of ground ginger, 3/4 of a teaspoon of ground cloves, one tablespoon of cinnamon, 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of black pepper. To that you will add a tablespoon of vanilla. Now just a hack here for anybody who's interested. I make my own vanilla, or I make my own vanilla, such as you can make it. Basically, all I do is take some dark brandy and shove a few vanilla beans in it. A month or so later, a couple months later, you've got vanilla. I find it has a better flavor than what you can buy in the store. I prefer it. So, and I think you may have seen this before. There are people that advertise perpetual bottles of vanilla as gifts. They put a couple beans in a bottle and give it away and say just add rum or tequila or to it. Eventually your beans aren't going to lose their flavor, so just take that into mind if you do decide to make your own. Now, looking at all these ingredients, you might think that this is going to be a very complicated process for putting together this gingerbread. But the wonderful thing about this recipe is that it really is easy. The hardest part is probably measuring out your ingredients. There's no specific manner in which you have to mix them. You can throw everything in the bowl at once and then turn on your beaters, or you can mix it by hand. You're a better person than I am if you're going to do that. But turn on your mixer and you just mix it on low until it is about the consistency of school glue. It has that kind of, we'll show you in a minute here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start adding my ingredients in my bowl. And the only reason I'm going to add them in the manner that I'm adding them is because I don't want flour to fly all over the place when it starts mixing. So I put my flour and my milk in first, but you really can just put it in any way, any order you want to. I'm going to add my egg, add my brown sugar, give that a minute to mix up just again so it doesn't spew all over my walls. So there's my vanilla, spices, that was the nutmeg again, cardamom, ginger, cloves. This is my salt, my cinnamon, and my pepper. Okay, now here is probably the worst part, is dealing with your molasses or dealing with your dealing with your honey, because they're just sticky items. Sometimes they're a little hard to get out of the bowl. So that looks like a glop, but I promise it's going to look better. I would stop your mixer in order to do this, because otherwise you're likely to have a mess. But you could have put this stuff in first if you wanted to. So I'm just going to scrape all my honey into my mixture. And then I'm going to add my molasses. Straight in. Try and keep it from spewing all over the place, because it can be a mess to clean up. But you just scrape that all in there. Okay, that was on low. I'm going to speed it up a little bit just to get it going a little, combining a little bit. I hope you can hear me over this. And you'll have to excuse my camera work. I'm not a front of the video person. And you're just going to give it a good beating. So you're going to finish mixing it, and you don't want to overbeat it. You'll be able to tell, like anything using flour, if you overbeat it, those glutens are going to lump up and they're going to be tough. So you don't want to do that. So what you're looking for is, as I said before, it's kind of the consistency of Elmer's glue. If you see how that rolls, kind of has that consistency of school glue like we used to play with when we were kids. So that's just about right.